Well, hello there, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Rogue Squadron. I am your host, Philip, and in today's episode, we are going to be discussing a up-and-coming horror icon, somebody that has gained a lot of traction these last couple of years, had a few, solo independent films that, eventually gained some traction, and, this particular slasher slash killer has been on the rise ever since the early 2000s, to be honest. And his latest movie just came out in theaters a couple of weeks ago, so I had the pleasure of seeing the movie twice. So I thought, you know what? It's October, it's spooky season. We might as well talk about at least one or two scary movies this month to only fit the theme. I mean, it makes sense. So in today's episode, we are going to be talking about Terrifier 3. Yes, we're going to be talking about Art the Clown. We're going to be talking about his rise to fame, and honestly, just what I thought about the movie. I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions on it. I'm not going to really go through a breakdown like I did last episode with the Wild Robot, so I'm just going to go through a generic, thoughts and opinions. Let you guys know what I thought about it. What I liked, what I disliked, and yeah, just kind of have a casual conversation about it. Excuse me, my allergies are bothering me today. But yeah, without further ado, before we get into the episode, I'll just give you guys a quick rundown on how I am doing. I am doing fairly well, besides my allergies bothering me. Work has been going pretty well. Obviously, yesterday was a little bit busy for me because we had Venom 3 come out. So obviously a lot of people were going to the theater for that. I did hear it got like mixed reviews. Eventually I do want to go see it, so I'll probably do a review on it myself. But otherwise, just been working, getting my hours in, and then obviously just continuing, going to the gym and, just developing my daily routine when I'm not working. So I had the day off today, so I went to the gym earlier, and then I did some grocery shopping. So now that I'm home, before we sit down for dinner, I thought I would sit down and record a quick little episode for you guys. I don't necessarily know exactly how long this episode is going to be. To be honest, there's not really too much that I have to discuss when it comes to Terrifier. I don't really know exactly how to talk about it, so we'll see how long this episode is. But other than that, I've been doing pretty good. So, hopefully I'll be able to, relax the rest of the day and then start work again tomorrow. But yeah. Other than that, the day kind of flew by, to be honest. I always hate when you have the day off and the day just like happens to fly by and just go like, right out the window or whatever. Excuse me. But, without further ado, we are going to talk about Terrifier 3. So obviously Terrifier 3 is the third installment in the Terrifier films. I'm still learning my lore about Art the Clown and Terrifier. So I believe he made his first appearance in something called the Ninth Circle. After that, he ended up making an appearance in, I believe, All Hallows Eve, which was like another kind of like little independent solo movie about him. And then I think there was a original Terrifier. There might have been like two makes. I think there was like an original Terrifier, and then the one that we all know and love came out after that. And then obviously we have Terrifier 2, and then we have the latest installment, which is Terrifier 3. So obviously, for those of you that don't know who Art the Clown is and exactly how he fits into this whole horror slash slasher genre, he is basically a sadistic, murderous clown. That over the last two films, they have kind of like teased that he has some sort of like supernatural ability. I think for the most part, the reason why he has that ability is because he is being like favored by a demon, or he's being kind of protected by a demon. Because we've seen like, in the last two films, he's like supposedly died, and then obviously he comes back. So there is some sort of supernatural aspect tied to him that they started to develop in the second movie. And then that just kind of expands in this movie, obviously. And then obviously the way it leads off, we assume that there's going to be another movie. If not another movie, probably two movies. Because the story is definitely not done when it comes to Art and his shenanigans, to be honest. So yeah, but so he's had a sort of bumpy road. I mean, unless you were, just a horror fan in general and you sat down and you watched The Ninth Circle or All Hallows Eve, you might have not seen those projects in him. I feel like a lot of Terrifier fans probably have not, or if they have, they've went back and watched it. I haven't watched them yet. I do plan on like watching them. I did binge watch like both Terrifier films, so I was caught up for the third one. But it wasn't until after I finished binge watching the films that I realized that there were like two other projects that he was in before that. So if I would have known that, I probably would have started with those, but I didn't know that. Um, so I'll definitely go back and give those a watch. I have watched a couple of lore videos on him just to kind of like get a better understanding of his character and like trying to figure out his like motivations and just like who he is. Um, But yeah, I mean that's basically like kind of like a quick rundown. So he's kind of almost like this generation's like maybe like Michael Myers, or Jason Voorhees, to be honest. Some sort of like slasher that comes back, to life and has some sort of like supernatural power bestowed upon him. But unlike Michael and Jason, he is extremely gruesome. Like real, like if you do not like blood, if you do not like gore, if you do not like those squishy sounds, like these are not the films for you. I mean, there have been people that have vomited, they've left the theater in horror and shock. I mean, um, when I was kind of introduced to these films, I got like all that like love and attention like on social media for it. Like, and they were saying like, oh my God, like people are leaving the theaters. They're putting up like warnings, like this is like really bad. And, I didn't really think much of it. I was like, okay, like, how bad could it be? And then I watched the first two films and I was like, oh, okay, I understand why they put those warnings. Because if you are squeamish and you cannot deal with stuff like that, you are not going to have a good time with this movie, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, I mean, moving on to Terrifier 3 itself, I mean, I think I would give it probably. Oh, this one's kind of tough to be honest. I think I would give it probably like a solid like maybe 8 out of 10 suns, to be honest. I really did enjoy the film. But there were a few things that I wish maybe were a little differently, or I'm just kind of like a little skeptical on, which is why like I'm only giving it an 8 out of 10. I mean, I guess starting with the negatives, really the only problem that I have with the film is just the story. Um, Obviously, the first Terrifier film was just kind of like this like random slasher film, so there really wasn't any story tied to it, which is I think is what made it so good. In the second Terrifier movie, they tried to bring some sort of story to light. They introduced these two characters of Sienna and Jonathan, which were like a brother sister combo. And basically, like the movie kind of focused around the two of them, and then eventually Art the Clown comes back into the mix, and he starts kind of harassing Sienna and her friends, and then eventually her family. And then we see towards the end of the film that she's able to defeat Art by chopping off his head with a sword. So it was a pretty bold leap to take from the first Terrifier film to the second one. Um, I know a lot of people don't go crazy for the second one just because they are kind of confused with the story or they just don't really like the story. I enjoyed the film. I mean, I think it has some of the best kills that we've seen like Art do. So it does have some of those good gory horror scenes for people. Um, but again, the story could take you out of it depending on like how you look at it or if you're not careful. Um, and that's kind of how I have a problem with Terrifier 3. I mean, I think they did a good job not focusing on the story as much until I would say like the third act, to be honest. Um, because, really the most of the film kind of like focuses on really like how someone like Art survives from the end of the second film. We're seeing most of his like kind of like transformation. Obviously, we're seeing more of the demon. We see that the demon has kind of moved on from this like image of a little girl to basically corrupting Victoria Hayes, which was the only survivor from the first film. Um, so we kind of like get a glimpse of like how he's been surviving like these last two films, basically. And I think that's one of the things that the film does pretty good. I mean, I think by kind of saving the majority of like the story and the lore for like, the third act, um, it allows us to like kind of enjoy Art as like the killer, and the person that we kind of fell in love with in the first and second films. However, even though they don't focus necessarily too heavily on the story, it's still a little iffy with like where they're going. Like I don't mind this like whole like sibling dynamic between like Sienna and Jonathan. It's one of the things I like about the film. And I like Sienna as a character. I think like having her as like the final girl, and like having almost kind of how Laurie from Halloween was to like Michael Myers, like Sienna is that to basically Art the Clown. Um, so I enjoy her, and I enjoy some of the characters, but the story is starting to get a little bit more complicated, especially when it comes to the whole like demon and like supernatural aspect. I mean, obviously, there's going to be spoilers in this episode. So one of the biggest examples is towards the end of the film, after Sienna is successfully able to defeat the demon, and basically a like portal to hell opens up in the middle of like their living room floor, and Sienna's younger cousin, Gabby, ends up getting sucked into the hole with the demon. So they leave it off on like a cliffhanger where it's like, okay, well now she has to figure out how to get to hell to save her cousin. So it's like, I don't know. It's like I don't know how they're gonna do that. I mean, it would be interesting to see how they pull it off. But I'm afraid that they might be leaning too much into the supernatural, um, where it's just kind of gonna get out of control. I mean, I think what people love about Art is like his personality, and then like also like his kills and how gruesome he could be. So kind of going this like supernatural route and like having a whole movie where like it might take place in like hell like is just kind of interesting. It's an interesting choice, especially with like how well received this one has been. It'll be interesting to see what they do. Um, so obviously, like that's really the biggest gripe that I have, to be honest, with the film. For me, like I said, it's just the story and like just kind of like where it's going. Like it is really hard sometimes to write a good story for a horror film because everybody's there just to see the killer and the people that he kills. But I think they're trying, and I think there's a pretty solid enough fan base around Terrifier to keep them going. I mean, like I said, I love Sienna. I mean, I love Jonathan. The rest of her family was pretty much just used as cannon fodder in this episode. So we did not see like, someone like her aunt and uncle for a very long time because they were not around for a very long time. Um, but seeing the dynamic between like Sienna and Jonathan is nice. And obviously the third act kind of leaves you on a cliffhanger, whether or not what happens to Jonathan. Like, did he really die? Like, is he still alive? Like, I don't think they would kill him personally off screen. And I think if they did, that's probably like my second gripe with the film because he was such a big part of the second film. Um, I don't see why they would kill him off screen. I mean, it's one thing to kill the uncle off screen, but I don't think they would kill Jonathan off screen. 'Cause, I mean, they weren't shy about showing Art killing children the whole entire film. I don't think they'd be shy showing him killing Jonathan. Um, so I don't know. If he is dead, then that is probably my second gripe with the film. If you were going to kill him, I wish we would have saw it on screen, to be honest, because I feel like he deserved that type of on-screen death. But I think it was more of like a psychological tactic that the demon and Art used to try to get Sienna to like break down and allow the demon to like infiltrate her body more successfully, if she had like nothing left to live for. Um, but yeah, I mean, really, those are the only two gripes that I had with the film. I mean, like I said, I'm just a little iffy of the story and like where the story is exactly going to be going. And then again, like, depending on what happened to Jonathan and what his story is like, maybe we'll see it further in the fourth one. But if he did die in this one, I do wish that we would have saw it because I think he deserves that on-screen death. I mean, he wasn't in the film as much as Sienna was because I mean, obviously Sienna is like more of the main character. But again, I mean, even though we didn't see him for very long, I mean, I think they should have showed his death if he did die. Um, Getting on to some of the good things about the film, I think Art as a character, I mean, I think he continues exactly where he left off in Terrifier 2. I think he does a phenomenal job, like just the personality and like the miming that he does, where he doesn't even speak, and that smile and just his bodily actions and like just what he does. The actor that portrays him is such a phenomenal actor, and he does such a good job. Like I never thought I'd be sitting in a horror movie and like laugh and then also like cringe because of how gruesome the kills are. And he makes you do that. He just has that personality that just like makes you want to like laugh because he's a clown. So like it's funny sometimes with like what he does. And then you're also like, oh my god, like when he kills somebody. Um, but no, I think his personality and his character, I think they definitely continue to improve. And that's definitely one of the highlights of the film for me. So I wouldn't say he has really any like character growth or like development. Obviously towards the end of the film, it seems like the demon that was protecting him was killed. So he could possibly be back to being mortal and could be killed. So we don't know how creative he's going to be, how careful he's going to be. He has had a taste of supernatural power, so is he going to be, guided again by another demon? Is he going to be going to hell himself to find this demon? We don't know. Um, but what I do know is that, again, he was just as enjoyable to watch in this film than he was um, in the second film. And I think putting this film around Christmas time, um, and having that 5 year time jump, I think was pretty clever because again, there aren't really too many Christmas horror movies. So I think taking Art the Clown and instead of like making him like a Halloween killer like Michael Myers, and kind of just like having him kill no matter when, I think putting the movie in like Christmas time, I think is a great choice. And obviously it made some of those kills like extremely creative, which is another thing that I loved. Um, So, like I said, I think his character was fantastic, and I think people will continue to love him in this film. Again, I think the kills were extremely creative. I think the shower scene is definitely up there with the bedroom scene from Terrifier 2. There were also a couple of other creative kills, but I think the gore and the blood and the guts were there for people that, obviously love that type of stuff. Um, you could argue that maybe they go a little bit more gruesome in this film. Like I said, that shower scene definitely is on par with the bedroom scene. I don't really know which one's worse. I think I would still put the bedroom scene over the shower scene, to be honest. But he does have a lot of creative kills in this movie, and it definitely does make it enjoyable. What they do with the sound and just the effects is just like absolutely phenomenal. It just really makes you like kind of like squirm in your chair because you're just like, oh my god. They definitely do leave you like speechless and kind of like in shock. Um, Especially because we know that Art is not afraid to kill children, and we do see him kill a couple of kids in this movie. So he is one of those killers that kills kids, unfortunately, because I don't think the first two films, I don't remember if he killed any kids. I don't think he did. So this film definitely went a little bit darker with his character. So we know that he's not afraid to kill kids. That's how the movie opens up, to be honest. And then we have the mall scene, and so he's not afraid to kill a couple of children. But again, I think the kill scenes and how they shot those and how they set those up, I think were really well done. So I think the cosmetic department, the prosthetic department, whoever does all this like blood and gore and like makeup and these effects, I think they just need to have their like, hat tipped to them because they just did a phenomenal job. And like I said, I think Art himself really just does a solid job, like just acting those scenes and like really just putting himself in the character with those scenes. And he did a phenomenal job. Um, I'm trying to think what else, to be honest. The music was pretty good. It's not like, everything that's like all cut out to be, but there were a couple of like pretty clever songs that were thrown in from time to time. Yeah, to be honest, I think that's going to be pretty much it. Again, there's not really too much to talk about with this film. It's not like it has like a deep like lore story to kind of talk about. But I think, going into this film and seeing it twice, I think the things that I would walk away with, like I said, I think Art the Clown himself, I think his character continues to improve in this film, and we definitely see it in, a bunch of scenes. I think all the kills, all the blood and gore, all the effects, I think they were absolutely phenomenal in this film, and they definitely make you squirm, and definitely is very unique to Terrifier, and that's something that definitely sets this like little franchise apart from like other horror films. is that that's really what they pride themselves on. I think everybody's looking when a new movie is announced, they're like, okay, like what is he gonna do this time? Like how is he gonna kill this person? How can it get any worse? You know, and it's almost like they have to like one up themselves every single time they do a film, because it's like how much bloodier and gorier can you get? Um, so I think that was phenomenal. Like I said, I mean, I think some of the characters like Sienna and Jonathan, like I love their dynamic, and I love Sienna as like kind of like the polar opposite to Art, and having the two of them like clash every film is definitely enjoyable. However, you know, just like every other review, like I said, the story could be a little confusing and kind of like all over the place. And it is interesting to see where it is going to go in the future. So I am a little skeptical about that. And like I said, depending on if Jonathan really did die or not, I am a little upset if we did see him die off screen and he wasn't given like a an on character death screen kill. Um, but other than that, like I said, I mean, I think I would give it, maybe after talking about it out loud, I think I would bump it up to maybe like an 8.5 out of 10 Suns. Definitely highly go recommend. I mean, at this time in the theater, I could tell you that it is not very busy, so please go see it if you have not had the chance to do it. You will not be disappointed, especially if you are a fan of Terrifier. You will definitely love this film. I think a lot of people are saying that this is probably like the best film, because we see that this franchise has improved over time. And the bigger it gets, the more money they get and the more creative they can be. So it is getting all the love and attention it deserves. It's been doing really well at the box office. I don't know what the critic scores are, but the audience scores are probably pretty good for this film. And everybody has been pretty much ranting and raving about it when they come out of the theater to see it. So I highly recommend you guys go see this theater, this movie, while it is still, while it's still out in theaters. Let me know down in the comments below if you've seen the movie and what you thought of it and just what you think of Terrifier in general. Before I let you go, you know, I will let you know where you can find this wonderful podcast in case you want to listen and watch our videos. So you can find us on YouTube at Rogue Squadron. You could also find us on Instagram and TikTok at Rogue Squadron. So I will be posting on the socials there when this episode is uploaded. And if you guys want to follow, you know, all the notifications and alerts to when I post the videos, then please follow us on Instagram and TikTok, and then also follow us on YouTube as well, so you can listen and watch this podcast. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode because I just don't want to rant and ramble. So if you guys wouldn't mind liking, subscribing, and commenting, like I said, let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. You guys have been killing it these last couple of days with the more recent videos that I've been putting out, so it really means a lot. Like I said, you know, hit follow and subscribe if you haven't. And until I see you guys again, I won't see you guys again until after Halloween, probably. So I hope you guys have a great Halloween. If you're going to parties, please be safe. Do not do anything stupid. Enjoy your costumes. Enjoy the festivities. But with that being said, I hope you guys have a great day, great afternoon, great evening, and great night. Please don't do anything stupid. Stay hydrated, stay warm, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye for now.